There are 5 major players in the foreign exchange market, or Forex. These include investment banks, central banks, financial institutions, brokers, and individual traders. All of them are involved in the trading of Forex instruments such as the British pound, US dollar, Australian dollar, euro, Japanese yen, Swiss franc, Swedish krona, Bitcoin, gold, crude oil, Dow Jones Industrial Average, and silver. These Forex instruments are traded by investment banks such as JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, Societe Generale, UBS, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and Deutsche Bank. Central banks such as the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan. Financial institutions such as Quantum Fund, Winton Group, BlackRock, Bridgewater Associates, Citadel, Man Group, and Bluecrest Capital. Brokers such as Swissquote, IG Group, XM Group, Ava Trade, Interactive Brokers, FX Pro, Owanda, Alpari, Pepperstone, and FIBA Group. And finally, we have the individual traders as well. There are 3 types of Forex financial centers: regional financial centers, or RFCs, international financial centers, or IFCs, and offshore financial centers, or OFCs. The IFCs include New York, London, and Tokyo. New York has 2 financial districts, Lower Manhattan and Midtown Manhattan. London also has 2 financial districts, City of London, or the City, and Canary Wharf. Tokyo has 3 financial districts, Marunouchi, Nihonbashi, and Otemachi. The world's largest hedge funds, mutual funds, banks, brokerages, and other financial institutions are all based in these IFCs and their financial districts. In other words, these IFCs, New York, London, and Tokyo, are regarded as the capitals of Forex market. Regional financial centers, or RFCs, include Chicago, Frankfurt, and Sydney. The central business district in Chicago is called the Loop. Frankfurt has Frankenviertel, and Sydney has the Sydney CBD, or Sydney Central Business District. There are 2 offshore financial centers, or OFCs. These include Hong Kong and Wellington. Hong Kong has the Central and Sheung-Wan District, and Wellington has the Wellington Central. GMT, or Greenwich Mean Time, is the mean solar time at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, London. Before we discuss Forex trading sessions, we need to understand the GMT time zone. GMT is a universal time zone that is used as a reference point to find out the time in different parts of the world. For example, let's look at this table. The left column represents summer times and the right represents the winter times. Let's look at the summers column. Wellington is GMT plus 12, or 12 hours ahead of the GMT time. Sydney is GMT plus 10, or 10 hours ahead of the GMT time. London is GMT plus 1, or 1 hour ahead of the GMT time. New York is GMT minus 4, or 4 hours behind the GMT time. Let's do another example to clarify this. If you go on Google and type in GMT, you will find the current GMT time. Let's say it's 600 GMT. Now, if you want to find out the time in London, as it's GMT plus 1, you will add 1 hour to the GMT time. So 6 plus 1 is 7. So it's 7 in London. New York is GMT minus 4, or 4 hours behind the GMT time. So we subtract 4 from 6 and we get 2. So it's 2 in New York. Tokyo is GMT plus 9, or 9 hours ahead of the GMT time. So 6 plus 9 is 15. So it's 1500 in Tokyo. The Forex market is open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. In those 24 hours, trading starts when markets open in the Pacific. And then the second trading session is in Asia, the third in Europe, and the fourth in America. During this trading cycle, the market's volatility changes from time to time and from session to session. All day, some markets are opening and others are closing. Let's start from the Pacific. Wellington, New Zealand opens at 1800 GMT and closes at 300 GMT. Sydney, Australia is open from 2000 to 500 GMT. After that, the Asian markets come alive. Tokyo, Japan is open from 2300 to 800 GMT. Hong Kong is open from midnight to 900 GMT. Then the European session starts. Frankfurt, Germany is open from 600 to 1500 GMT. London is open from 700 to 1600 GMT. This is the time when the real trading action begins because the volatility and liquidity is very high during the London session. And finally, there's the American session. New York is open from 1200 to 2100 GMT. Chicago is open from 1300 to 2200 GMT. As the New York and London markets overlap for 4 hours, that is from 1200 to 1600 GMT, this is the most volatile period of the day, and if you want some real trading action, this is the time to trade. During different times of the day, the Forex trading sessions overlap. There is the London-New York overlap, Frankfurt-London overlap, New York-Frankfurt overlap, and a trio overlap of London, New York, and Frankfurt. During these overlaps, the market's volatility and liquidity is always changing. I've constructed this Venn diagram to represent a more clearer picture of these overlaps. LDN, or the pound symbol, represents the London session. FRA, or the euro symbol, represents the Frankfurt session. NY, or the dollar symbol, represents the New York session. London is open from 700 to 1600 GMT. New York is open from 1200 to 2100 GMT. And Frankfurt is open from 600 to 1500 GMT. London and New York sessions overlap for 4 hours from 1200 to 1600 GMT, and this overlap is the most volatile period of the day. Frankfurt and London sessions overlap for 8 hours from 700 to 1500 GMT. Frankfurt and New York sessions overlap for 3 hours from 1200 to 1500 GMT. And finally, the London, New York, and Frankfurt sessions overlap all at once for 3 hours from 1200 to 1500 GMT. And this trio overlap is the most volatile and liquid period of the day. Now we come to the overlap between the Pacific and Asian markets. There is the Sydney-Tokyo overlap, Wellington-Sydney overlap, Tokyo-Wellington overlap, and a trio overlap of Sydney, Tokyo, and Wellington. SYD, or the Australian dollar symbol, represents the Sydney session. WLG, or the New Zealand dollar symbol, represents the Wellington session. TYO, or the Japanese yen symbol, represents the Tokyo session. Sydney is open from 2000 to 500 GMT. Tokyo is open from 2300 to 800 GMT. And Wellington is open from 1800 to 300 GMT. Sydney and Tokyo sessions overlap for 6 hours from 2300 to 500 GMT. Sydney and Wellington overlap for 7 hours from 2000 to 300 GMT. Wellington and Tokyo sessions overlap for 4 hours from 2300 to 300 GMT. And finally, the Sydney, Tokyo, and Wellington sessions overlap all at once for 4 hours from 2300 to 300 GMT.